So welcome to the Leader Lounge episode 2 with me, Martin Johnson. 15 to 20 minute short soundbite episodes where we talk about a subject matter straight to the point and hopefully give you some hints and tips. This episode we're going to talk about 3 techniques for dealing with pressure, stress and duress. And the 3 techniques, I'm going to break them up into before a stressful event or running up to something that's causing stress, during something which is incredibly stress-inducing, and after a stress exposure. And therefore, we have a technique for each one, because sometimes the anxiety is building before an event and we need to calm our system. Sometimes we're in something like a presentation at work or whatever it might be, and we can feel our breathing going and we need to just try and calm the system. And sometimes it's in the aftermath of a stressful event, when we reflect back and think about it, that it causes more stress and anxiety to actually reflect and think about it. So 3 tips, and I'd like you to pick which ones are most relevant for you. But I'd try them all. I'd try them all in a quiet, safe environment, at home, in the workplace, whatever it might be. So the first technique we're going to do is pre-exposure. Now, when I say exposure, there could be many things in life that you get a little bit anxious around, from delivering that presentation at work in front of a boardroom, whether you have to go on stage or whether it's something a bit bigger. Whether it's you're about to have a really important meeting, whether you're going for a job interview, whether you're having a performance discussion with a member of staff and it's going to be slightly uncomfortable, or you've got to confront that friend you haven't spoke to for 6 weeks and you've got to try and clear the air. Or whether it's something like you dread driving or flying and you've got a long drive on the motorway, or you're about to get on a flight, whatever it might be, pre-exposure to it can be the most difficult part. It can be the worst, because your brain's wired to look at the threat, think about the threat, say it's a bad thing, release cortisol in the brain. This switches on your autonomic nervous system, which releases cortisol and adrenaline, which gets your heart rate pumping and makes you feel anxious. And this can happen running up to an event. So the technique I'm going to speak to you about is the ABC technique. Anybody who's worked with T2 will know this technique. It's such a simple thing to remember, of course, ABC, but it's so effective if you can just understand the simplicity of it and master the technique. The A doesn't take very much at all. The A is acknowledge. Acknowledge what you are worrying about. Acknowledge the fact that you're not a keen flyer and you're about to get on a flight tomorrow and you're starting to worry and think about it. Or acknowledge that this presentation is a big deal and you want to go well, so there's nerves around it. Or acknowledge that this interview is the one you've been waiting for a long time and you want to do so well and you don't want to mess up. Acknowledging worries is the first step in psychology to dealing with them. Quite often we want to push anxiety and worries away. Have you ever been laid awake at night in bed thinking about all the things that are causing you anxiety, and you just say, right, stop it now, go to sleep, push it away? What happens when you push it away? It comes back tenfold within 20 seconds and you're laid awake for another 3 hours. Acknowledge worries. It's really important to do so. You just say to yourself, I am feeling anxious or worried because this is coming up. It carries risk, or it's important to me. It's incredibly normal. B, the B in ABC is breathe. Breathing affects your physiology and your psychology. It's scientifically proven. It's why things like breath work and mindfulness exist. When I'm talking about breathing in ABC, I talk about a particular technique called the psychological sigh. I talked about this at the leadership retreat this year, and I've taught it to many different people in the worlds of sport, business, and even in the military. Breathing and the psychological sigh helps you to absolutely reduce your state in the moment. So if you're feeling anxious and things are getting elevated, tunnel vision will occur, fine motor skills reduce, blood flow increases, heart rate increases, and that's where the anxious feeling comes from. So the psychological sigh is this. You're going to take one big breath in through the nose, so up to the top. It's another sharp breath at the top, and then out through the mouth, it's a slow exhale. And you drop the shoulders and the body and relax the tongue to the bottom of the mouth and your jaw. It's really important to do that. Let me explain why that happens. You've got to do this breath work for about 60 to 90 seconds to change your states. You can't just do it once. All right. So the psychological sigh is, I'll do it again. Big inhale through the nose. When you get to the top, it's a short one. And then slow exhale through the mouth. Dropping the shoulders, the body, the tongue to the bottom of the mouth, the jaw. 90 seconds of that is important. Why does that work? Well, the inhale, the large inhale gets oxygen in. Oxygen in is good. We want, in a stressful moment or building up to stress, we want oxygen in. The short one at the top, the extra short one before the exhale, really matters. This is because it's going to expand the alveolar sacs in the lungs. These are small sacs in the lungs that collapse under stress, and cortisol release. Expanding those small sacs in the lungs gives us that extra lung capacity and oxygen into the body. What it then does is, as we then exhale through the mouth and we relax the body, we push CO2 and carbon dioxide out. Oxygen in, carbon dioxide out, very good for modulating the stress response. If you're doing 60 to 90 seconds of that, if you're feeling anxious about what's to come, you should be able to absolutely experience a change in your state, and you should be able to experience more calm. If you need to do longer than 60 to 90 seconds, do it. Every human being is different. If you need to do 3 repetitions of it, do it. If you need to do half an hour of it in a quiet space, do it. But trust me, psychological sigh is this notion of one big breath in, a sharp one at the top, and slowly exhale through the mouth while relaxing the body. The B in ABC matters. So A, acknowledge. What is it that you're worrying about? B, the psychological sigh. Breathe. Big inhale, short one at the top, slow exhale through the mouth. Now we're ready to move on to C. The C in ABC is control. So we've calmed the system, we've acknowledged what we're worrying about, but the C is, what do I control in the here and now that I can possibly do to make some decisions, take action, or respond to this, or prepare for this situation. And that's really important, because when we go to the C of control, we start thinking of things we can possibly do to ensure that the thing we are worrying about doesn't happen. And so when we're in control, we make decisions and we take action. And that is important, because there's nothing more powerful than a decided mind. And there's nothing more crippling than an undecided mind. So get decided. Focus on what you control, write some decisions down and take some action. It will help you prepare for what's to come. So the ABC technique is pre-exposure, something you might be running up to or worrying about that's important to you, that carries consequence or risk. And I want you to ABC the hell out of it. I want you to acknowledge that this is normal, I'm a human, and I'm experiencing some stress, anxiety, and worries about something that's important to me. B, breathe. Slow your breathing down, do the psychological sigh, repeat it time and over, calm the system, oxygen in, CO2 out. And C, what do I control? What are the things I can possibly do right here and now? And you know what? Sometimes there's nothing you can do, but there's usually something you can do to distract the mind. If it is distraction, there's always something we can do and that we do control. And so ABC is a great way of managing stressful periods, certainly when something is coming up that we're worrying about. Okay, let's move it forward. What about when you're in the midst of a stressful event? Maybe you're on that stage giving that presentation and the audience is huge and you just can't stop focusing on, I'm sweating, my heart is racing, what if people are looking at me, people are distracted on the phones, whatever it might be. Maybe you're building up to do a challenge that you've set yourself, whether it's climbing a mountain or a skydive or a bungee jump or whatever it might be. Maybe you are waiting and queuing to get on the plane that you're fearing so much. You're in the moment. The stress response is now well and truly kicking in and you're not feeling great. Open gaze is the second tip I'm going to give you. Now, this comes back to the military are often taught about open gaze or wide gaze. And a good friend of mine, Rich Davini, former Navy SEAL commander of SEAL Team 6, who we collaborate with here at T2 and who we've done lots of work on, we talk about open gaze a lot. Open gaze is this notion that you reduce intensity and focus by widening your field of vision and your gaze. When the stress response happening, I mentioned earlier, tunnel vision takes place. You focusing on the threat. It was always designed for us to spot the saber-toothed tiger in the long grass or hone in on something that may attack us. So with the narrow focus and the intensity of focus, the reduced hand-eye coordination, the tunnel vision, the increased blood flow and heart rate, it triggers that stressful response and that tension. Open gaze allows us to counteract that and undo some of that focus. So if you're giving the presentation, I often look up to the ceiling, look up and around the room as I'm walking around. I look right to the back. I look to the right corner, the left corner. I'm trying to take in as much as in my environment as I can. It's also a big reason why I'm a walker on the stage. I'll never stand behind a lectern, or I never stand in a fixed position behind a microphone. And the reason for that is if I'm fixed, my gaze is fixed. And so a lectern, it pinpoints me to the position, and my field of vision is only past that lectern. So for any speakers watching, this is a tip for you. If you get the confidence to roam and walk around, you widen your field of vision and you widen your gaze, and it reduces the stress response because we're reducing focus. You know, if you're on a roller coaster at a theme park and you're scared to death, look up to the sky, look at the top of the trees, look at the beautiful landscape around, widen your view. In the military, we was always taught when you go into a street or an alleyway or a compartment or on a ship or whatever it might be, get the bigger picture, take all your information in. You know, gaze wide, stress less is the tip there. Now, the third tip I'm going to give you is post stressful event. You know, those times where you may be revisiting that presentation that you think's gone awful, or that argument you had in that meeting today, or the way you responded to that colleague at work, or whatever it might be, or just that argument you had with your mother on the phone, or your father, or a family member you love dearly and it feels awful, whatever it might be. I think, or you failed at a job interview. You've gone and you know you haven't covered yourself in glory and you could have done better. There's loads of examples of this in life where we reflect and beat ourselves up a little bit in the aftermath. So what I'd like you to do in that is a simple technique of using your hand and your finger to just focus in and follow a pattern of lateral movement side to side whilst thinking and replaying what actually happened in the scenario earlier today. There's a therapy out there called EMDR, and it's used to unlock trauma, or it's used to unlock unhelpful memories and replace them with more positive ones. Now, this is not about unlocking trauma for everybody, and it's certainly not about deep therapy and counseling, but EMDR is the exact same technique. The therapist will move their finger from left to right, and you will access it with your eyes and follow left to right sequentially as you are going, whilst thinking about whatever it was that made it unpleasant. This is really important because it gets you to connect with the way things, or the way you perceive things, are. Then you're going to take a pause. And then you're going to start the process again, and you're going to follow that finger left to right. But this time, you're going to focus and think about all the things that have got you to this point, all the good points, all the positive points, and all the things that you want to happen in the future. And the idea is that we're going to replace a poor memory or a negative memory with a more positive, optimistic one. You might be sat there thinking, why the finger? You know, what's that got to do? Well, the science shows that the eyes are the key to the brain's memory. What we see and visualize helps us store vivid memories there. So it can also help unlock the part of the brain that can replace what might be toxic or negative memories with positive ones. So the coordination of following eye movement, and you're just using the finger as a marker. You can use a pencil, you can use other things, but eye accessing to the brain whilst thinking about memories that you don't like and replacing them with things that you would rather have that are more productive, are going to serve you well, is a really good therapy technique in the aftermath of a stressful or uncomfortable event. And you don't have to go mad with this. Again, you know, a few minutes at a time, a couple of repetitions, and see how then you feel about that. Some people do it for a couple of weeks. Some people do it for a few nights. But it's remarkable how you can start diminishing some of the effects of those negative thoughts, feelings, and memories with more positive ones and a positive outlook. So 3 techniques for dealing with stress, pressure, and duress. Before exposure, let's use ABC. Let's acknowledge what we're worrying about. Let's do the psychological sigh and breathe, and then let's focus on what we control. In the midst of a stressful event, you can use open gaze. Know that you're going to tunnel your vision into the target. You're going to get really hyper focused, which is going to cause that stress response. Lift your head up, move yourself around, take in all your information in your environment, and lessen the focus, which is going to reduce the stress response. And finally, in the aftermath, if we start beating ourselves up and feeling bad about a situation, use the eye accessing. Use this notion of following your finger left to right and get it all off your chest. Think about what you're beating yourself up around, what you don't feel great about, what you think happened. Take a pause, and then I want you to repeat the exercise. And I want you to do it for as long as you can and as long as it's comfortable. But I want you to think and remember and connect with all the positive things that you are, all the good things you've achieved. And actually, if that situation replayed itself again, what would you rather happen instead? It's remarkable how you'll change the inputs in your brain's computer and how you'll reprogram yourself to think differently about that situation or event. So that's another short Leader Lounge episode from me. 3 tips for handling stress, pressure, and duress. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave us a comment. And if you want us to discuss any other aspects or areas about psychology, people, relationships, teams, leadership, whatever it might be, put it in the comments and we'll make sure that we put it on the schedule. So thank you for now, and we'll be back shortly with another Leader Lounge episode.